Hello, everyone. Thank you for checking out this special episode of Really Dicey. This is Manny, and I'm here with.
Andy Peregrine, a lead writer still on Dune Adventures in the Imperium.
Yes, and today we're going to talk about Masters of Dune, a
Yeah,
campaign book for the Dune role-playing game for Modiphius.
yeah.
So let's talk about what what's going on here. So this is actually almost like a continuation from the box set that came out recently. Am I correct about that?
It very much is, but we've adapted it to do a lot of different jobs because we're always big fans of letting everything we do fit to your gaming group. Not here is the thing, and you must play it this way. So yeah, the basic level of this is Master and Duke. Okay, so it exists. It's real. They will be on their way out hopefully very shortly if they're not already. And the idea is this is the campaign that follows on from Agents of Dune. So you can carry on with House Nagara, or if you created your own characters, you can follow on with that. And without wanting to spoil it too much, it's always the thing with adventures and campaigns, don't spoil it too much. But by the end of Agents of Dune, you've established yourselves on Arrakis. And Masters of Dune is about can you keep it?
Hmm.
Now, obviously, what we've also done with this is if you've not played Agents of Dune, don't worry. We've got all of the précis and the detail of what's gone on to catch you up, and you can dive straight into the action with Masters. You don't have to play Agents of Dune beforehand. Obviously, better if you do. Agents becomes this whole prelude and settles you into the story, but Masters gives you everything you need to carry on there. So you don't have to do one then the other. And in fact, the other thing you don't have to do, you don't even have to play as a campaign, because what we've done is Masters has become kind of a tour of the Dune universe, because we know a lot of people want to get off Arrakis, and Masters of Dune, well, sorry, Agents of Dune was all about getting to Arrakis and dealing with the Harkonnen training you and all kinds of bits and pieces. We always thought that was a nice touch, and now you know who the bad guys are at the end of Agents. You know who's coming to get you. The question is what you do about it, and to do that, you set off into the universe. So you go and deal with the Bene Gesserit, you go to the Emperor's court, you have dealings with the Landsraad Council, you even help out the guild with some space pirate problems. So there's a load of different, there's basically about 8 or 9 adventures, all of which comes to a conclusion adventure at the end. And if you don't want to play the campaign as it is, what you've also got is 8 adventures that focus on a single aspect of the Dune universe. So if you go, well, I don't want to play the campaign, but I fancy doing a guild adventure, that'll do, and I'll then let them meet the Bene Gesserit. Obviously, they're focused around things you want to do in the Masters of Dune campaign, but a lot of the campaign itself is built around trying to get friends and people on your side to help you against the enemies that you have. So this is the extra thing that we have with this adventure. There are a section of indices of how much support you have with the Landsraad, with your house, with the Bene Gesserit. And as you complete adventures, those indices change and move. And there are certain things that will happen that may be triggered if things go in certain ways. And certain things that ways people will react to you depending on what your indices are actually doing and how well you've impressed people. Also, how well your house has reacted. Have you gained a reputation for being brutal, given that you've trained with the Harkonnens? Or have you managed to turn that into a reputation for being honourable and decent? And this will create your universal reputation, which is of great importance in the campaign as you're trying to make friends and gain allies across the Imperium.
Hmm. So let's talk about a little bit about the story itself for Masters of Dune. And I know I don't want to get too spoilery, obviously, but what I noticed, especially in the description, it says that it's a what if scenario. Do you mind explaining a little bit about that?
Yeah, so this is what we've carried on with Agents. Is the idea we wanted to put your characters in the place of the Atreides. So in Agents of Dune, for various different reasons, similar to what happens in the film, but not quite the same. In Agents of Dune, your characters are given Arrakis. The Harkonnen are going to step down. Now, interestingly, this isn't the same. You might not be at odds with the Harkonnen. In fact, they're your allies in Agents of Dune at the start of things, because the Harkonnen have been told, you've done well, you've mined a lot of spice, that's great. Now you get to move up a level. You get a whole load of extra shares in Chone. You don't have to do the work of mining spice, but you're going to reap a load more rewards from it. So it's in the Harkonnen interest for you guys, your house, whether you use our pre-created house, House Nagara, or create one of your own, which you can do. It's in the Harkonnen's interest to make sure that you know what you're doing. So a lot of Agents of Dune is the Harkonnen training you on the best way in spice management and worker relations. You might not agree with some of their approaches. So there's a little bit of, you don't have to be, oh, we love the Harkonnen, they're great. You can think they're awful. And that will works how you react to the adventure. But we thought it was interesting to start at this what if with, firstly, the Harkonnen are on your side. It's like grabbing a tiger by the tail, but and it's in their interest to make sure that you do well here, because they're going to make money out of that. And of course, this being Dune, there are wheels within wheels and that. But when you finally arrive on Dune, as in Agents of Dune, you are, which is you settle yourselves in with lots of bits and pieces going on there. You are taking the place for your Atreides. You're landing there, and it's how can we make Arrakis ours? And to give you that option as players of going, well, how would you have done if will you be better than Duke Leto in making their decisions? Will you seek out the Fremen in the same way? Will you make friends with the Fremen the same way? Will you turn to the Guild instead to do things? How will you manage that position? And it's been interesting. And we've also put a few bits and pieces in so that you can scale it down a little bit. If you don't want to be, we are taking the place of House Atreides, you can work the adventure where you're getting a large piece of Arrakis rather than all of it, sort of as a franchise deal from the Harkonnen sort of thing. So you can scale it up or down depending on how your campaign works. But that's very much the what if aspect, is to go, you are House Atreides without having to be House Atreides. Let's see how you do. So you can play a lot of different sort of events that are coming up from the film, and some of the iconic moments that you see in there as well, and see how well you do. Will you survive?
So the way this campaign book is put together story wise, is it just pretty much one continuous adventure in each chapter? Is each chapter just separate adventures that are tied in together loosely? How is it put together?
It's very well, if you'll pardon the term, because we ought to not use this too often with you, but it's a massive sandbox. So we've got individual adventures are self-contained, but it's entirely up to you where you go or what you do with it. So we've got the first chapter is a sort of introduction adventure that takes place on Arrakis to sort of settle you into the planet, and particularly if you've not played Agents, you can pick up on what's going on and get to know Arrakis. But then it's very much up to the players. When you realize the situation and realize what is happening, you can go, right, well, who do you want to chat to? Do you want to go and see if you can make out, get some deals with the Landsraad, in which case that's the chapter to go to. Do you want to go directly to the Emperor? Well, okay, you go after Kaitane. Do you want to try and chat to the Bene Gesserit? Maybe one of the characters is a Bene Gesserit and says, maybe I can do a contact, I can chat to my order, they can help us out. So it's up to you to do the chapters in any order you like. Miss them out entirely. You might go, we don't trust the Guild, we don't want to have anything to do with them. Forget that chapter. We're not going to do that. If they do, then the GM can save that for another adventure later on. You can pick that up. So it's very much how you want to do things. There's a couple of chapters, again, I don't want to spoil it too much. There's a couple of sections where if your indices hit certain levels, certain things happen. So there are some where the GM goes, you're going to this chapter whether you like it or not now, or the following will happen because you've shaken the tree this badly here, so this is going to happen. People would be interested in certain aspects of your house and what you want to do. So there are some sort of auto things, but essentially you go through any order you like, and at the end you come to a denouement when you think you've either got enough allies or you've stretched things too far and things have come to a head. Then the last chapter pulls it together to try and figure out whether you can stay in control of Arrakis or whether the enemies you built up over the time are going to take you and your house down forever. So it's very much a piecemeal thing. You can put it together in whichever way suits you, whichever ways your groups want to go, whichever direction you want to play with it as well.
Are there any new optional rules or anything like that?
Well, we've kept down on the rules. We try and avoid. I'm a big fan of. Although usually we like people like supplements and expansions, I'm very much a fan of having a core book having all the rules you need. So we're trying to move more towards. We often add in some of the supplements. We'll expand on things we've already done. So in some of the later books, we'll be expanding on guild agents and things, and the way that we expanded on Fremen in Sand and Dust. So we like giving you new talents and new character options. Those are always good, really cool to look at. But we're trying to avoid actual full-on new rules. But having said that, when you move into, as I mentioned, the guild one involves you dealing with space pirates. So we take a conflict system that's the same one as we had before, but we show you how to do that with space battles. So again, not entirely new rules, but a new way of using the system that you already have. So there's bits and pieces like that. And hopefully you're going to see a lot of ways to apply the system, and sort of as a big example of things you can do with the system, because there's a lot of slightly complicated bits in Dune, a lot of gear changes to what people are used to, and hopefully some of these adventures are going to show you what the system's capable of already and how it all fits together.
Hmm. Or so you mentioned this is a sandbox. You want this to be a sandbox type of adventure. So should I assume that there's like maps of places around Arrakis? Is there maybe a lot of NPCs? Maybe I know it dude's not known for like having a huge bestiary or anything like that, but like maybe animals. What extras are contained in this book?
So we've got the indices system is a nice way to manage the campaign. So you have all the worksheets and things for that. Because interestingly, the players can have one, but they can never be quite sure if their indices are quite what the GM's keeping track of. They're allowed to keep track. I think we did well there. I'm going to add another point to how well the Landsraad think of us. And the GM might be thinking, no, the Landsraad hates you. Your real index is that. And these have a game effect when you want to do a thing. If you want to interact with the Landsraad and your indices are positive, you get a bonus to the difficulty. Things get easier. And the same verse if your indices have dropped down to a negative. So there is a very statistical aspect to how the campaign is managed. It's not just to funnel the story. There's a very strong system element to that, to see these things will affect how well you're doing things. So we've got a little bit of that. Obviously, there's all the maps you need for the adventure. So when we have these space battles, there's maps to the space thing. We've got a load of source material primarily, and things like when you go and visit the Bene Gesserit, there is a little bit of time you go to Wallach 9. So we've got a little bit of information about the home of the Bene Gesserit and things like that, and you get to see Kaitain and all these places that you might have read about in other places, and now your characters are going to go there in these. We're not so heavy on maps and things. Dune is usually so vast, almost impossible. It's the one thing when people say, "Oh, what does the universe look like?" And they say it almost doesn't matter when every spaceship can blip to any place in the universe. Relative distances become just irrelevant, really. But you kind of want to say, "I want to see a map. I want to see a map." I'd like to do one at some point, but we haven't done it for this one. But yes, it's mostly in terms of new bits and pieces. There's all support material you need. So if we discuss something where there's a map, and we do have a zone map of Arakeen, because there are some bits and pieces where you do some dealings and that, and you want to know where people are. And so we've got all of those sort of things to manage conflicts and warfares and all kinds of other bits and pieces there. So everything's in the book for what you need. But we haven't got too many things like, oh, here's just a map of Arrakis and things. There's plenty of time to get around to one of those as well at some point.
The Dune role-playing books have fantastic art. Was there anything different about the art direction for this book?
To a certain degree, we're moving into if it works, don't fix it. I mean, we are amazed. I've said before, I'm constantly amazed with artists, and we've got our director Rothio has done loads. She's worked for a long time with Modiphius, and she's found some amazing people and got some brilliant work out of them. I tend to look as a writer. I will look at these things. I will read the section, see the art they've done, sometimes based on my work or work I've read from some of our other writers, and just go, "Oh my God, that looks amazing!" And then usually art directors will burst my bubble and say, "Oh no, this is only a draft piece because that's wrong, that's wrong, is it? I would print that. That looks amazing. That's incredible. What's wrong with it? Really? Oh, I suppose so, but so I don't really know what I'm looking at." But as a gamer like that, in that sense, I look at these books and just go, "Wow, we are always so pleased to see what we have, so proud of the work we've done and what Modiphius lets us do." We've all got favourites of the art that we love to do, and maybe we'll see an art book or something at some point. We'll see what we do, because it's art that deserves to be seen. We love, the covers have come out really nicely. I am usually blown away by everything I see on that. I'm just a complete fanboy for our own art. I ought to be more serious. Yes, we structure it this way, organised, and yes, we are looking for this particular thing. I just think it's brilliant. Rothia does amazing work, and there's it's usually just a case of, that's brilliant, print that one. But yeah, the direction is basically the same. I'm a big fan of consistency. We want these books to look the same. We want them to, not samey, but we want to maintain the same theme. I want these to look nice on your shelf, to look at the thing and go, yes, there are many, and it's no fault of the companies in question, but there are many times you get a series of books and they'll change the design layout or change decisions about the book, and you find your early supplements don't look quite the same as your later ones, or have got different sections to them or something. And as far as we can, I'm a big fan of consistency. So we want it to look the same high quality art, the same vision that we've had at the start is something we're very keen to carry on all the way through the line, and make sure that Dune looks like the Dune you started with, and with our own twist to it as we move away from some of the movie things as well, and get to do it, because they've let us do our own stuff with a lot of things, which has been really great. So.
Let's talk a little bit about inspiration real fast. So for this book, anyone that wants to play it, would it help to read maybe certain Dune novels, besides, of course, maybe the first one, of course. But is there maybe something specific that would help them to help get a better feel of the adventures?
Well, it's always an interesting question, I find, because obviously the first, Frank Herbert's novel Dune is your first source for basically everything. And to be honest, if you've read that one, you know pretty much everything you need to know about Dune. Of course, if you read, the second two after that are going to tell you what's going on in the future. The ones after that are going to tell you it's almost a different setting completely. They're miles away. And of course, you've got the Brian Herbert, Kevin J. Anderson books. So you've got the Prelude to Dune is a useful series, the House Atreides kind of thing. It tells you where things are building up to it. But I'm always curious to know how these adventures work for people who are new to Dune, who they've never seen it. We try to make these adventures work so that the GM has all they need, and with that and the core book together, you should be able to hopefully explain this to your character players, help them through the setting and what you do. So obviously it's a little bit harder if they don't know the setting to know that there are such things as the Bene Gesserit to go and chat to. So if your players don't know the setting so well, the GM might want to throw some hints and say, well, you could talk to this people called the Landsrat, or did you know it's okay for you to go and chat to the Emperor about things? So those sort of things, you might need some prompting for the GM. But by the same token, I'd like to think that the adventures are designed to sort of introduce the world of Dune. So when you get to Kaitain, or you get to Wallach 9, or you start interacting with the sword masters and what have you, that you'll get, oh, I see who these guys are. And because you've been able to introduce and get to know them in the context of adventure, which is a far better way to learn than just reading from the book, that will hopefully make the setting live a little more and bring it to life, even if you don't really know Dune very well. So we're trying to write all the time for people who are big fans of Dune and know everything backwards, but also for people who are new to it, because it's a very intimidating setting. And we've tried to make sure that people can be brought into that setting gradually and get to know everything and get to see how things fit together and get the most enjoyment out of it without feeling intimidated and overwhelmed with it. It's been a very important part of the structure to what we're trying to do.
So Master of Dune will be coming out very shortly. I believe is at least a PDF available currently, or?
Well, I believe now this all depends on where we are, and I hope Danny won't hurt me for saying two things. So I believe we've been on pre-order for a little while. So if you pre-ordered the book, I don't know if the pre-orders are still open. They might be. If you do, you get the PDF of the book as soon as you do that. But we have released the PDF on drive-through. I think it's sitting there somewhere in the top 10 on drive-through at the moment. That came out, I think, last week at time of recording. That was out last week. For those of you who have pre-ordered, you'll be waiting for one of these. This is my sort of pre-print copy, but I think they are imminently, if they're not already in the warehouse, they're very close to it. So this proves it exists, it's real. It's this close to completion. We have got it ready to go. We may even be seeing the pre-order copies going out by the time we actually release this podcast. I think it's very soon. But I wouldn't want to give you a date because Danny hasn't given me a date, and he'll hurt me if I give you the wrong date. So it's. I think I can safely say, as you can see from, I've got a copy of the book here. It's very, very soon. In fact, people might even, if things go very well, people might even, if you pre-ordered particularly, be watching this with a copy of it in their hands right now. So very close, very close.
So,
of course,
sorry,
I was going to say you'll see Modiphius at Dragon Meet as well. So, and I suspect we will certainly have it on the staff. Yeah, we will certainly have it on the staff by then. So, yes, come see us at Christmas time and check out Modiphius at Dragon Meet. Yeah.
Oh, excellent, excellent. So, probably your favorite question you love hearing all the time. What's next?
Well, I can actually share these with you because we've had these in development for quite some time, and they are very much ready to go. I think we will be, that once Masters is dealt with, we may be looking at doing the pre-order for the next ones quite soon. Again, I don't want to tell you the actual dates for these because I don't know where they are, but they are very, almost done. We had a little podcast at the ModCon this year. We revealed a lot about Houses of the Landsrad, which is the subtitled The Great Game, and this is our first book that takes you off Arrakis. So apart from just the campaign in Masters of Dune, so we introduced about 20 new houses that you can interact with. They can be allies, enemies, even your house major for things. We go into the Landsrad itself. We go into guild and space travel. There's a load of expansion detail for guild agents and what they do. And the one a lot of people have been waiting for, we go into house management. There is a huge system. I got really overexcited with it. There's a massive system that allows you can go as far as structuring your entire game around doing house management and seeing where that leads. Or again, you can scale it down to go, we'll make a couple of rolls and see what's happened. And did you want to build a thing? Yeah, moving on. So I didn't want to make it a thing where you have to do all of this between every session. I know some people really like to get into what is exactly on that hex on our planet, and I want us to build a palace that looks like this and has this on it. So all of those fiddly details are in there. You can develop relationships, character downtime stuff. There's all kinds of stuff in there. But it's really the Great Game, Houses of the Landsrad, takes you into all of the house politics. And then we follow that up, as we've announced beforehand, with we're calling Powers and Pawns. It's the Emperor's Court, which is the high level gameplay. So we move into showing all the outsiders, the Chilaxu, what it's like to politic in imperial circles, not just among the Landsrad, but as the leaders of your house instead of the agents of it. So there's a lot of really good stuff between those two books coming out. But yes, so they're all written and they're very much in process at the moment. So we should see some of those very soon, hopefully. If you catch me and Danny at the right time at Dragon Mate, I might be able to show you some bits and pieces of them. So there's yes, we've got a bit more we can share. And then of course we're moving into some other bits and pieces that we can't share yet, but or at least I don't think we can, so I better not. But we will have some accessories available very, very soon as well. But I can't be any more specific than that at the moment. I probably shouldn't say we have those yet. They might even be out by the time of release of this, but we got a few more bits and pieces to keep you going in them, right? And a few more PDF adventures as well. We're trying to fill in the gaps between books where we can with some more PDF adventures to keep you playing the game, and hopefully each one of those, like we did with Desert Flowers, we'll give you another aspect. So that one helps to deal with parties and things like that. We've got some that will deal with politics and show you all kinds of things that will all fit nicely into your campaign and help you along with your own structure for Dune and what you're doing with it.
Oh, that's exciting. Wow, great. So before we wrap up, is there any last words, anything you want to say before we end the interview?
No, I'd say thanks for everyone who's a fan of Dune, who's playing the game. Keep playing it, and keep chatting to us on the forums. We love to hear your feedback and what you've thought of the game, and some of the stuff we've seen from people at the games they're creating, houses and art and things doing. It's always amazing to see, and it's lovely to see the response we've had for the game. So yes, tell your friends and share the joys of Arrakis and the Imperium. And hopefully we'll continue to give you more of what you want and expand your campaigns with you as the game goes on, because we've got plenty more to do. So hopefully, keep enjoying Dune, and it's great to have you aboard. Yeah.
Hmm. Well, viewers, thank you for watching. Andrew, thank you for taking the time to talk to us about Masters of Dune. I love the title, and
Yeah.
yes, and I will put in the description below where you can find a copy. And yes, be safe out there. Have a good day, everyone.